What is going on, my beautiful people? I am really excited to bring you guys today's video, and you know by the title that we're going to be talking about e-scouting. So we're going to start out in the office and I'm going to show you guys what I'm looking at e-scouting, and then we're going to go out into the woods and we're going to do some hunts. And there's a big cold front coming in tonight actually, which is going to make it 47 degrees in the morning, which it's been around 60 degrees. So it's a pretty big drop, over 10 degrees, and I'm hoping that that's gonna get the deer up and moving. What we're gonna do, basically my plan for this weekend is we're gonna look around in this area, be real quiet, there's not gonna be much talking. I'm gonna set up a little mock scrape or something like that in this area, put a trail camera on it, set up a stand, and then go hunt there that afternoon, and then the following morning. And hopefully we're not gonna blow out anything. I'm gonna try to be really careful to not scare any deer because I think this is a really good location. I just have to hope that the wind treats me okay this weekend, and if it doesn't, I might not sit there and we'll wait and get another video of hunting this location. But enough of that, let's go ahead and I'm gonna get into this and we're gonna get into e-scouting. So for e-scouting, what I use is I use Onyx and I use Google Maps. Now I do not have the paid version of Onyx, I have the free version. More or less because I know the property line and I'm hunting on privately owned land. That being said, if you have public land, you can still use the free version of Onyx. Just try to make sure that you are within those lines. I know you can get a 7-day free trial when you first sign up and it'll show you the property lines, but I also use Google Maps. Now Google Maps is completely free to use as long as you have internet connection, you can see. And I like Google Maps versus Onyx because they use different styles of photos. And I'll be able to show you guys that, and I think that the Google Maps photo is actually a wintertime photo, and it's a little bit of an older photo versus the Onyx photo, which seems to be more of a summer or springtime photo, and a bit of a newer photo. So I like being able to see that because you can see a little more the transition areas that I'm gonna talk about. What we're gonna be looking at is this screenshot right here, and I'm gonna leave it up on the screen for you guys, and I'm gonna have different arrows popping up on it at different times just to help to illustrate what it is that I'm talking about. So from this Onyx photo, you can see a couple different bits of information. So down here in the bottom lower left quadrant, we have our building as well as a little bitty stand. And you'd be surprised at the amount of deer that we actually see in this little food plot and actually come really close to the building because a lot of this area immediately behind the building is bedding. So as you can see, this is all planted pines that are about 10 years old at this point. We planted these pines 10 years ago, and it was all clear cut before that, but the deer really like it and they get in there and bed. I had a camera that I set out pretty much right in this area where there's a little bit of an opening, and it was there for 2 weeks and 2 weeks only, and we had a pretty decent buck and a couple deer come through. I'm gonna put that video link up above, that way if you want to go watch it and see the buck, then you'll be able to find it. One other big factor that led me into looking in this area was the deer actually that's on the wall back behind me. That deer right there. So that's the biggest buck I've ever shot. He's not that big, he's probably a gracious 130. The big deer I killed out of this food plot right here, and he was actually at this point right here. I'll put an arrow, and right at the end of the arrow is where that deer was. So I was trying to think, what do all of these areas have in common? And that they're not very, and that is that they're not very far from this creek right here, Long Branch. So as you can see, Long Branch comes down into this little black point from the northwest, and it comes up from Big Cedar Creek here. So all of these areas are kind of blocked off by old creeks and creek beds because typically these don't have water in them. I was like, perfect. So there's these creek beds that they're using. There's food. There's bedding. The only other thing that deer really need is water. I was like, all right, well, what's the closest water source that these deer are going to be going to? And it's this big lake right here. So as you can see, you know, it's got a bunch of algae on it right here. That's what makes me think it's a summer or springtime photo. But that's a pretty decent little lake that's on our neighbor's property. Basically, this Big Cedar Creek is the property line. I was trying to think, okay, well, where is going to be the hub with transition lines? So where is there going to be a transition line from the bedding into this hardwood creek bottom? And where is it that would be the most producing area to sit? And I was like, okay. So this Onyx map, you can kind of see some transition lines. I've actually set right here before, a while ago, before we had all these pine trees planted, and killed a pretty decent buck. So that led me to go to another source. So if you go to Google Maps, this is a wintertime photo, and it kind of tells a different story. So this is the Google Maps photo that basically we're looking at the Onyx photo of. So as you can see, you can still see the planted pines because they're still green because it's winter. But if you look at the hardwoods, which have lost all their leaves in this photo because it's now winter, you can definitely see those transition lines, right? So that led me to think, okay, well, where are all of these dumping in? So if there's a deer coming up Big Cedar Creek, it's gonna drop basically where this says Long Branch. And if it's coming down that creek, you know, and not going into the bedding area or crossing over into any of this, it's gonna dump into here. Now, also I'm thinking a bigger buck is gonna be in this area, especially during the rut, and if the wind's blowing that way, trying to check this field for does. So that's kind of my thought process on going into this location. Now, of course, taking a look at it from the sky view or the satellite view, you can't really get a full understanding of the area. So that's why it's going to be important to get in there and get boots on the ground, which is what we're going to do tomorrow. So we're going to go and try to take a look at this pinch point on this map, and we're going to get in there. We're going to see if there's any fresh sign. If there is fresh sign, we're going to set up a camera, and we're going to set up probably a mineral block or something like that, and hopefully we'll have some success in doing that. But we will go ahead and I will see you guys at the food plot, at the edge of the food plot, as we go in and try to hunt this location. Ooh-wee. All right, everybody, so it is midday on October the 3rd. It's the day after you saw me do the e-scouting, and we have made it to the woods. As you can see, we're at the field. This is the big field that you guys saw on Onyx and Google Maps, and basically right in there is the group of woods that I want to get into. Basically trying to intersect these deer getting to this food source from their bedding source up this river bottom. Now, as you look at it, I want to just take a second and look at the top of the trees. So over here is a group of pines. That's a group of pines. That's a dead pine right there. And right here you can see the tops of some oak trees, some pine trees, and everything like that, right in this little bunch right here. With that bunch being a little bit of a bigger group of trees, that's telling me it should be a little more open in there, and it's telling me that there should be some better trees to set a stand on. And so I'm hoping that if I can get in there, should be a good place to get a shot and catch these deer moving back and forth. Alright guys, I'm trying not to sweat too much. So sorry for the ventilation and the chest hair show. I don't know how well you'll be able to hear me, but I did some scouting in here. As you can see, it opens up pretty nice for about a 20-30 yard shot anywhere in here. Loads of trails, loads of acorn, loads of tracks, loads of scrapes. About 200 yards from here, we got a monster of a buck that I'm sure is going to transition during this point. Back in that way, it gets really thick, and back behind me, it gets really thick. And there's a heck of a trail going to a scrape coming from this bedding area back this way, back to this food plot. And I know the deer are going to be coming through here and traveling through here to get around this food plot. So I am hoping that we will be able to get a deer in here this afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and try and set up the stand, and then we're going to set it up over here on the field, back in this group of trees. Hopefully we'll be able to see into the food plot and see over here as well. But that's my plan. Let's make that happen and get to hunting. Oh, and I got our camera set up right here, ready to go. Gonna be looking back this way, back behind me, for anything going between the bedding and the food plot. Alright, so I just got in the stand, set up. I haven't even pulled my bow up, and I look over into the field behind me, and there's already does in the field. Let me show you guys. It's 2 does, and there was a third one out there in the woods. Unfortunately, I don't have my longer lens to get a better look at it. It took me about 30 minutes to get set up. 5:47. So, that shows you how quiet you can be setting up portable stands like this. They have no idea I'm here. My wind is blowing perfectly that way, which is back the way I walked into here. But if there's anything in the edge of this food plot, theoretically I should be able to shoot it. I'm gonna come in here and cut out that main limb right there, and maybe cut a little path right there. I'll probably do that tomorrow before I leave, but I'm not really planning on shooting into the field. I'm planning on really shooting over here and all this stuff. I think the deer will come from that bedding area, and it should be a pretty easy shot right through here, and if I stand up, even easier. I heard some footprints behind me, and it looks like a doe came out. Know something smells off. I don't know if the camera picked that up or not, but I had a deer like half blow in front of me 2 or 3 times. I'm checking my wind and it's blowing over my shoulder. So, I don't think it smells me. My does that are in the field are still over there, so they don't seem too bothered. You may think I'm crazy, but I think I just heard a grunt behind me. Look at that mosquito. I really do think I heard a grunt behind me. So it's been about 2 hours since I saw those does. And actually one just walked into the field. 7:14, it should get dark about 8. I think that'll be doe number 6 for the night that I've seen. Not counting the one that I heard blow, because I don't know what that was. But we've definitely seen some deer. Oh, there's another one over there. Dang, it took my camera a minute to get that lightened back up. I was about to say it ain't that dark in here. Yeah, it's another doe. So as you can tell, I mean, they're a good distance away, but they all came out from behind me. I could hear them walk through. I thought they were going to come a little closer. And they definitely come out of this area. I mean, by all the trails and everything in here, you know they're using it. And I got the camera set up so we'll be able to see, but there might be a better opening a little further down. We'll have to wait and see. There's another deer over there. They're moving. Seven or eight does just walked by through that little opening. There's actually some moving this way. This camera's doing a really good job because it's really dark in here. Like, I'm really pleased with how this camera's performing right now. But I'm gonna be quiet because I don't know where those does are going or if anything's coming up behind me, so I'm gonna just be quiet. We still have does out in the field. I think Dad got down. Scared him. At least I'm hoping that's what's happening. Well, it's the morning of October 4th. Just had some geese take off from the pond back behind us. It's about 47 degrees this morning, so a little chilly. Hoping we'll see some deer moving. Okay, so for a majority of the footage you guys are watching, I forgot to turn my microphone on. Rookie mistake, I get it, whatever. But the location that's on the screen right now is where the pin is that I had marked on Onyx in the house. But the location I'm in right now is where all the sign is that the deer are intersecting here. I mean, this is where the creek runs, no doubt in my mind, when it's full. There's several different acorn trees, several different tracks, lots of fresh poop. Like, there's just all kinds of sign in here. Horn trees, everything you could imagine. I mean, just look at the ground with footprints where they're coming through here. You got access to bedding and thick cover, acorn caps where deer have eaten them. All the sign that you could want to see when looking for deer is right here. All kinds of old horn trees. And I'm sure if I kept going up this trail that goes that way, forks off that way and then goes back the way I came. The further I go up this trail, I guarantee you the more sign I see. Now I don't want to go too far up this trail because I don't want to spook anything out really. Because this looks like it just goes into its bedding, but I'm going to follow it a little ways just to make sure there's not anything big that I'm missing up here a little further. But I'm pretty sure right back there's the hub where all these deer are meeting in the middle. Most definitely back behind me where I just was is the central location where all these trails are meeting and they're going into the food plot. The deer that I saw last night when Dad spooked them out from where he was coming to hunt from, they ran this way. So it's a little unfortunate that my scent is in here now, but I'm gonna go get my trail camera and just bring it over here and set it up somewhere looking at these two trails that are intertwining, and try to find a good tree to potentially put a stand on. Alright, so we're gonna put our camera on the tree right here behind me. I'm just making sure that it's all synced up and ready to go. My thought process is if they're walking on that trail, you know, maybe they're gonna walk in to eat on these acorns for a little bit. If not, and they keep walking on that trail, then so be it. We won't get them on camera, but a good bit of acorns are in this river bottom, and with it just now getting windy and stuff like that, more acorns are falling. You gotta love that bedhead. And I just think this is gonna be the best bet to set up in. I really do. This should be a pretty good little spot. I'm just trying to survey for potential trees and potential entry and exit without making too much racket, because I ain't gonna be able to come the way that I just came, or I'm gonna blow everything out of here. We are good to go. Got our camera set up. That is the view that the camera has. And the only thing that we're really gonna be missing is if they're on that trail and they stay on that trail and don't come through this area, but we'll see. That's gonna do it for e-scouting part 1. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and follow for e-scouting part 2, where we come back to this location and actually set up and hunt, and we look at some trail camera photos. So I'll catch you guys on e-scouting part 2. Make sure you subscribe, leave a like, all that jazz. That way you don't miss it. And with that being said, we'll go ahead and kick it over to myself in the future, giving you guys the verse of the week. All right, everybody. So as you can tell, we have made it back to the house from out there in the woods, and it's time for the verse of the week. But this verse of the week is going to be a little bit different than the other verses of the week, because this week we don't really have a verse. I'm sure I could have found one, but it was something that I've been thinking about and something that really relates to this video. So I really wanted to do more of a talk of the week, to speak, and I'm sure there will be some scripture that is said. But one thing that's always funny to me is when we're e-scouting or we're looking, you know, for these animals, we look everywhere. We search and we search and we search and we do everything that we can to try to locate these animals. And a lot of the times, it's not the same way with God. So a lot of the times we'll be like, you know, I need a miracle, I need a sign. God, show me a sign, show me a sign, show me a sign. But we don't look for him. Right? Like, we don't put the time and the effort in that we would looking for a deer, so to speak. And, you know, maybe you're searching for something else, and that's perfectly fine as well. But the amount of effort that we put into e-scouting, on the boot scouting, walking around in the woods, hunting, and everything like that, the amount of time that we put into that, can you say that you've honestly pursued God with that same enthusiasm, that same drive, that same passion as you would a deer? So that's kind of just something I wanted to leave with everyone this week. You know, he's never going to leave you or forsake you, first off. So he's always with you, whether you know it or not. But have you searched in his word for answers to the stuff that you're dealing with? Have you listened to the worship music? Have you completely thrown yourself into trying to find the answer that you have, much like you would throw yourself into trying to find a deer? And so that's kind of what God had put on my heart to kind of talk about and leave with you guys. So that's what I'm going to leave with you. Just have you put forth the same amount of effort. Yeah, and that's pretty much it. So anyways, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed this talk of the week versus quote of the week versus scripture of the week, verse of the week, whatever you want to call it. But anyways, that's all for now. Always remember, when nature calls or God calls, you better answer. Peace.